This is All India Radio. In the weekly program Current Affairs, now we bring you a discussion on Make in India for Atmanirbharta in Defence Sector. The participants are Dr. Atul Dinkar Rane, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, Brahmos, Aerospace, and Omvesh Upadhyay, AIR Correspondent.
Before we begin the discussion with Dr. Atul Dinkar Rane, listen to a special report on India's journey of becoming a self-reliant nation in the defence sector. India's defence sector is witnessing a significant wave of indigenization as a part of Atmanirbharta and Make in India initiatives. The Government of India has rolled out several policies to encourage and motivate self-reliance in defence manufacturing and technology in the country. The Ministry of Defence yesterday signed contracts for the procurement of an improved Akash weapon system and 12 weapon locating radars WLR Swati planes for the Indian Army at an overall cost of over 9,100 crore rupees. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has termed the signing of contract for procurement of Akash weapon system and 12 weapon locating radars WLR Swati planes for the Indian Army a welcome development. In a tweet today, PM Modi said, "This step will boost self-reliance and particularly help the micro, small and medium enterprises sector." The Prime Minister has also lauded the signing of 19,600 crore rupees contracts with Indian shipyards for acquisition of 11 next-generation offshore patrol vessels and 6 next-generation missile vessels for the Indian Navy. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said, "This will strengthen the Indian Navy and add momentum to the country's aim of Atmanirbharta." The contract for procurement of improved Akash weapon system for the 3rd and 4th Regiments of Army Air Defence, comprising live missiles and launchers with upgrades, ground support equipment, vehicles and infrastructure was signed with Bharat Dynamics Limited, worth over 8,160 crore rupees. The AWS is a short-range surface air missile SRSAM air defense system indigenously designed and developed by the Defense Research and Development Organization DRDO to meet aerial threats. 2 additional regiments of AWS with upgradation are being procured by the Indian Army for the northern borders. Improved AWS has seeker technology, 360-degree engagement capability and improved environmental parameters. The Defence Ministry said the project will give a boost to the Indian missile manufacturing industry in particular and the indigenous defence manufacturing ecosystem as a whole. Following the Make in India initiative, the country has been able to shift from being a defence importer to an exporter. In a new feat, India's defence exports stood at a record 14,000 crore rupees and the government is now aiming to achieve 25,000 crore rupees worth of exports by 2025. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh recently revealed that issuance of positive indigenization lists of over 3,700 items, including components, line replacement units for DPSUs and 310 other defence-related items have been issued by the Ministry of Defence to promote self-reliance. Some of the major initiatives that are pushing indigenization of India's defence sector include the launch of Mission Deaf Space, the launch of Innovations for Defence Excellence IDEX scheme involving startups and micro, small and medium enterprises, the indigenization portal Shrijan and more. Speaking on the significance and need of Atmanirbharta in defence sector, Prime Minister Modi said,
आज जब हम डिफेंस में आत्मनिर्भर भविष्य की चर्चा कर रहे हैं, तब ये भी आवश्यक है कि बीते दशकों में जो हुआ उससे हम सबक भी लेते रहें। इससे हमें भविष्य का रास्ता बनाने में मदद मिलेगी। आज जब हम पीछे देखते हैं तो हमें अपनी समृद्ध मैरीटाइम हेरिटेज के दर्शन होते हैं। भारत का समृद्ध ट्रेड रूट इस विरासत का हिस्सा रहा है। हमारे पूर्वज समंदर पर अपना वर्चस्व इसलिए कायम कर पाए क्योंकि उन्हें हवा की दिशा के बारे में, अंतरिक्ष विज्ञान के बारे में बहुत अच्छी जानकारी थी। किस ऋतु में हवा की दिशा क्या होगी, कैसे हवा की दिशा के साथ आगे बढ़कर हम पड़ाव पर पहुंच सकते हैं, इसका ज्ञान हमारे पूर्वजों की बहुत बड़ी ताकत थी। देश में ये जानकारी भी बहुत कम लोगों को है कि भारत का डिफेंस सेक्टर आजादी से पहले भी काफी मजबूत हुआ करता था। आजादी के समय देश में 18 ऑर्डिनेंस फैक्ट्रीज थी, जहां आर्टिलरी गन समेत कई तरह के सैनिक साजो सामान हमारे देश में बना करते थे। दूसरे विश्व युद्ध में रक्षा उपकरणों के हम एक अहम सप्लायर थे। हमारे हॉवित्जर तोपों, ईशापुर राइफल फैक्ट्री में बनी मशीन गनों को उस समय श्रेष्ठ माना जाता था। हम बहुत बड़ी संख्या में एक्सपोर्ट किया करते थे। कोरोना काल में इतना बड़ा संकट आया, हम बहुत एकदम से बहुत नीचे की पायरी पर थे, सारी व्यवस्थाएं नहीं थी, पीपी किट नहीं थी हमारे पास, वैक्सीन की तो हम कल्पना नहीं कर सकते थे। लेकिन द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध में से दुनिया के उन देशों ने बहुत बड़ी शस्त्र शक्ति बनने की दिशा में रास्ता खोज लिया। भारत ने इस कोरोना कालखंड में इसी बुद्धिमत्ता से वैज्ञानिक धरातल पर वैक्सीन खोजना हो, बाकी इक्विपमेंट बनाओ, हर चीज में पहले कभी नहीं हुआ, वो सारे काम कर दिए। मैं उदाहरण इसलिए दे रहा हूं, हमारे पास सामर्थ्य है, हमारे पास टैलेंट नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है जी। और इसलिए आत्मनिर्भर भारत ये सिर्फ एक आर्थिक गतिविधि नहीं है दोस्तों, और इसलिए हमें पूरी तरह इसमें बदलाव की जरूरत है।
India's Space Defence Initiative, Mission Deaf Space, was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during Deaf Expo in October 2022. The goal of the space program is to use industry and startups to further India's preparation and position the nation for potential future space opportunities. In addition, Mission Deaf Space was launched with 75 defense space challenges that have been categorized into existing DDP initiatives of IDEX, Make 1 and Make 2. The challenges grouped into 5 categories: launch system, satellite system, communication and payload system, ground system, and software system provide a comprehensive 360-degree overview of space. The budget allocation to this particular space sector is growing every year. Mentioning the budget allocation for the year 2022, the Department of Space has been allocated a whopping 13,700 crore rupees in the annual budget. 7,456.60 crore rupees of which is earmarked for capital expenditure. The government introduced the Innovations for Defence Excellence IDEX framework with the goal of fostering innovation and technology development in the defence and aerospace sector by involving industries such as MSMEs, startups, individual innovators, R&D institutes, academia, and encouraging self-reliance. With budgetary support of 498.78 crore rupees for the following 5 years from 2021 to 22 to 2025 to 26, the government has approved a central sector scheme for IDEX. Through the Defence Innovation Organization, the program's goal is to financially support about 300 startups, MSMEs, and individual innovators DIO. As a facilitation of services, Shrijan Portal of Department of Defence Production, the Ministry of Defence was launched by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in 2020. The portal is a one-stop online portal that provides access to the vendors to take up items that can be taken up for indigenization. The portal presents data in a structured manner, including the name of the item, an image and specification, import values, a NATO classification, and for ease there is a search function as well. To achieve self-reliance in the defence sector, in line with Make in India initiatives, the centre has developed 2 defence industrial corridors, DICs, one in Uttar Pradesh and the other in Tamil Nadu. Through these DICs, the government wants to create a defence manufacturing ecosystem with favourable conditions. The intention is to have a strong supply chain for boosting production and testing and certification to foster economies of scale and the growth of globally competitive businesses in the nation. According to the Ministry of Defence's data, Uttar Pradesh Expressways Industrial Development Authority, UPEIDA, the nodal agency for Uttar Pradesh Defence Industrial Corridor, UPDIC, had signed 69 Memorandum of Understanding MOUs with industry with a potential investment of 10,545 crore rupees. All the major sectors of the domestic defense production ecosystem have benefited from the initiatives, which place a strong emphasis on indigenization and procurement from domestic businesses. The initiatives have also sped up the development of domestic businesses, including MSMEs and startups.
The Ministry of Defence yesterday signed contracts for the procurement of an improved Akash weapon system and 12 weapon locating radars, WLR Swathi planes for the Indian Army at an overall cost of over 9,100 crore rupees. The Defence Ministry on the same said that this project will give a boost to the Indian missile manufacturing industry in particular and the indigenous defence manufacturing ecosystems as a whole. And today to discuss on this in detail, we are joined by Dr. Atul Dinkar Rane, CEO and MD, Brahmos Aerospace. Welcome to the program, Mr. Rane.
Good evening. Wonderful to be along with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
And Mr. Rane, to begin the discussion, when we know that Defence Ministry inks contract with the BAPL for next generation maritime mobile coastal batteries and Brahmos missiles worth 1,700 crore rupees, please share with our listeners the significance of this deal.
You see, Brahmos has gone a long way since its inception. We are just a 25-year-old company. We have just started our 25th year of existence. We have developed this missile jointly, and what we have done is it's actually grown as an indigenous weapon system. What we started as the vanilla Brahmos and what we have today, there's quite a bit of a difference. There's been enhancement of its capabilities, methods of use, ease of use, the countermeasures, all these added in. Now, we are, of course, the first and only country who have a triad of the supersonic cruise missile with the three armed forces, the Indian Navy, Indian Army, and then the Indian Air Force. We actually did start off with the idea that we would have a coastal battery as an anti-ship missile. But it took some time for it to gain traction, and the Indian Navy actually did look at the coastal defense system very carefully, and we did install something already for the Indian Navy down south. But that was something like a vanilla, simple system. We have now got this contract from the Indian Navy and the MOD for the next generation coastal battery system. This is going to be a much more improved and much more indigenous system which will be there. Getting a large order from the MOD will always make a difference to any industry, because that gives you a chance to actually up your game at the production, the capacities, etc.
And when we learn from you that this will be a more improved and indigenous system, can we say that this deal will significantly enhance multi-directional maritime strike capability of the Indian Navy as well?
Without doubt. Right now we are installed for the Indian Navy on many of the frontline ships. We will be installing more on the ships, but the ships are out at sea. What about our coastline? The coastal missile battery system, the NGMMCB as we call it, the next generation mobile missile system, will definitely save and protect our borders, as we call the exclusive economic zone, to a very, very large extent from any infringements in this area.
So, Mr. Rane, Prime Minister Modi termed this deal as a step to boost self-reliance. How the increasing Atmanirbharta in the defense sector will strengthen India's military power?
Honorable Prime Minister, of course, is a leader who has been showing us the way. Very interestingly, Brahmos has been part of the Atmanirbharta movement right since its inception, because the whole idea was we keep increasing the indigenous content of not just the missile but the whole ground complex, so the support systems. What's happened is, with the new ideas of negative lists being put out by the government of India, and also the positive lists where DRDO would not be doing a few of the development and being left to the industry, these are all steps towards Atmanirbharta. Now, how does NGMMCB help us? Well, we are now looking at indigenous platforms. We've tied up with one of the large Indian industries to supply us with the prime movers for this coastal battery. We've been working with a few of our other partner industries to up their numbers for the missile system. It's a wonderful journey, and we've been guided right through by the Government of India with the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister.
And Mr. Rane, Prime Minister also said that self-reliance in defense particularly helps the micro, small and medium enterprises sector. And if I'm not wrong, around 60% of the project cost will be awarded to the private industry, including MSMEs, in maintaining the supply chain of weapon system. Mr. Rane, how significant will this move prove to catalyze the growth of the MSME sector?
There are huge opportunities in our country. We are growing and actually witnessing an all-round development. And in fact, because of the various schemes which are there, we are actually emerging as a new power block, especially in the global volatility which is there right now. The government has created a lot of forward-looking initiatives, including the initiatives in the education area, which increases the STEM, as we call it, science, technology, engineering, etc. And let me tell you, technology plays fundamental role in wealth creation. Now, once we go towards self-reliance, automatically there is wealth creation and improvement of quality of life in our country. It's not only that we are going to be self-reliant in terms of we are not going to be spending more dollars, but at the same time we will be creating a real economic growth, including the transformation of our society. I mean, this is in a nutshell for a layman to understand. The economic parameters involved are massive. We are looking forward to many of the systematic methods to achieve this dream of self-reliance. We already are fairly self-reliant. Please do understand, there is not a single country in the world who is fully self-reliant on their own. We are moving towards self-reliance where we would not be dependent too much on a foreign country. That's the whole idea.
Mr. Rane, it is also believed that the project will generate an employment of more than 90,000 man-days over a period of 4 years. So how impactful it will be in generating the employment as well, and there will be an opportunity for the youths to contribute to the nation building as well?
Do understand when we start work with our partner industries, Brahmos Aerospace ourselves are employers of the youth. Though of course we are a very small company, but our 200 current industry partners will be going to close to another 20 or 30 more we'll be adding on because of this new contract. And every single partner industry who comes in, they will need a workforce, a skilled workforce. And we are a nation of massive skill capabilities. We may have to channelize it in the right direction, but the amount of work which is required to move this project forward will be involving a lot of people from the industry who themselves will be doing the uptake from the universities.
And Mr. Rane, currently the project has overall indigenous content of 82%, which will be increased to 93% by year of 2026 and 27. So how the ministry and government is planning to achieve this in upcoming years, and what will be the road forward, if you can tell our listeners in detail?
What's happening is, Brahmos, when we started as a missile system, the whole ground complex has been designed within our country. It was on the missile system per se where the massive effort on indigenization has taken place. From a meager 13%, we have reached 78%. But mind you, we are a joint venture company, so naturally we do have to keep the joint venture partners also in the business. Otherwise, we would just become more like a licensed production, which is not what we want to be, because we are looking for the future and more improved products which we are looking at. But what has happened is by the sheer volume of the orders which the government of India is giving not only to Brahmos but even to the other industries for the other defense weapon systems, like you mentioned in the introduction, the Akash weapon system, the weapon locating radars. In fact, just to point out that these are all designed by DRDO, and then the industry is manufacturing them. Do understand that these large volumes gives a fillip to what was a small capacity. Because of the large order, now the industry has the wherewithal and the thrust forward to increase their capacity. If earlier we were getting only about 20 subsystems in a year, the industry, knowing that there is such a huge order and there's a future to everything, that is how the industry would also be able to invest more into their capacity building. Over the years, in the little earlier times when I was a younger boy, what would happen is the industry would always say, give me an assurance that there will be an order and then we will do an investment in our industry. Today we are at that point. The government is assuring that here is an order, go ahead and start your industry to start the manufacturing in a full-fledged manner forward. Yes, we would be looking for as maximum as possible to have an indigenous manufacturing capability through all spheres of every single defense weapons. The value, that depends on how hard we work over the next couple of years. And when we reach the 100 years of independence, I really do share the dreams been put forward by the Honorable Prime Minister and the government, that we will be more or less 90 to 100% Atmanirbhar at 100.
Absolutely right, Mr. Rane. But when we talk about becoming self-reliant and Atmanirbhar in defense sector, it is not only about productivity or manufacturing, but there's also international standard of research and development should be there. So how the government and we together ensuring that this happen at an international level, and what's the way forward for the research and development sector as well?
You see, over the last couple of years, there's been a huge expansion of outreach. DRDO has been reaching out to the industry through their various policies in terms of technology transfer, working on centers of excellence with the universities. There have been creation of world-class scientific research parks by the government. Today we even have the defense corridors in place in in a few of these states. And these defense corridors actually would give a fillip to the SMEs and MSMEs, because they get a place where they would be able to do their testing or even do their design. Let me tell you, and it is something which I would like All India Radio to actually, through All India Radio, I'd like to tell the world that DRDO actually is a world-class R&D organization. We may have been the whipping boys in terms of timelines, but with the industry now in partnership, as well as many of the R&D pieces being handed over to the industry, things are going to change multifold in the future. With the budget announcements of this year as well as last year, with the amount of the budget being handed over to the private industries for R&D, part of the defense R&D budget, which 25% has been promised to them, and that would definitely be happening. The universities in our country are absolutely world-class. We are, through the government as well as through the various departments, be it the Department of Defense Productions, IDEX, be it DRDO's Technology Development Fund, there are a lot of challenges going out where single persons or group of people, SMEs, MSMEs are allowed to take part in these challenges, and a lot of exciting ideas would come out from them. It's very interesting to see how the response to these challenges as well as the responses to the requirements of technology development by the non-government sector is moving forward. It's very interesting. A lot of startups are having their funding taken care of through their unicorns or through their venture capitalists.
Indeed, and that brings me to my next question. You mentioned about startup. We are talking about increased participation of private industries, private organizations in the manufacturing and defense sector. How startups can also play a role to give a boost to the Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense sector?
Let me try to explain it through an example.
Absolutely.
Look at the unmanned aerial vehicles. Yes, the government will have to look at the large unmanned aerial vehicles to be done through a government sector because that involves a huge cost. But as part of the DRDO's first list, and they are working on a second list also, there are a lot of these technologies which they said that we are not going to be working in. And one of them is the drones. There are 3 or 4 startups, young engineers, who are now in a position to, and who have also actually set up production of drones in the country. And they would be supplying not only the armed forces, but they would be supplying the paramilitary forces also with drones. You know, what happens is very interestingly, they would be working on cutting edge technology, not because the country has it. They will be working on cutting edge technology because they are youngsters and they are willing to take those risks. And mind you, risk taking is normally done by a youngster, not by the aged R&D or scientist who does it. We try to be conservative. The young mind would be able to have a much wider thought vision of trying, why don't I try this? It might work. And they will be having the support of everyone to go forward in the areas that they're interested in.
And to add in the discussion, sir, there's also Srijan portal of Department of Defense Production, Ministry of Defense that was launched in year 2020. The portal is a one-stop online portal that provides access to the vendors to take up items that can be taken up for indigenization. Mr. Rane, if you can also share on something on this, that how it works and how significant it has been facilitating the whole process for vendors.
Yes, do understand that the industry actually has been putting in efforts in their own R&D. Of course, there were times when I used to say that most of the R&D done by the industry has been in only improving their process control and their methods of manufacturing. But and not much of capital was being put into futuristic or real technology cutting R&D. But many of the big industry houses, and of course, as I was talking about the startups, they have been able to say that why are we importing, for example, a prime mover or the small drones, or for that matter, the what is being planned as robos? We can do it ourselves. And these are the ideas which are coming out through the portal. In the portal, we have, of course, what are all the items which we are buying or sourcing from different areas, and many of the suggestions in the sense volunteering agencies saying we are going to take this up, and I believe it's done up quite well. I would leave it for a more knowledgeable person in the DDP to give a explanation of how it has been working and what is its exact output. But I am aware of at least 2 or 3 of the line items which have worked out beautifully and really magnificently well. And we really are marching forward towards a wonderful country in the next couple of years. It has always been a wonderful journey. There are ups and downs, but we have such a wonderful history of overcoming so many hurdles. A scientific or technological hurdle is, I think, one of the smallest hurdles that we need to cross.
And with your full inputs, we can say that India is on the path of making us an indigenous defense manufacturing ecosystem. Thank you so much, Mr. Rane, for joining us today on All India Radio.
Always welcome, and it's always exciting to be able to talk to people who do know what's happening, and just for the inputs which we could always add on to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on Make in India for Atmanirbharta in Defence Sector. The participants were Dr. Atul Dinkar Rane, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, Brahmos Aerospace, and Omvesh Upadhyay, AIR Correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsttalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 928 90 94044.